Hello and good morning from a very crowded London-bound Southern service. We're just about to arrive into the train's next stop of East Croydon, which provides us with an excellent opportunity to hop off and check out London's relatively small network of trams. Before the present day trams, London actually had a very extensive tram network. At its peak in the early part of the 20th century, London's tram network was the largest in Europe. However, in keeping with trends across the country, by the middle of the century, much of London's tram network had closed, with tram service within the capital ending in July 1952. Now, this is somewhat unusual for a major European city, with the exception of Madrid and Hamburg, who have a very small network of trams and no trams respectively. All of the other current 20 largest cities in Europe have networks of trams that vary between somewhat and extremely extensive. However, there was, and I think still is, a very strong argument to say that London doesn't really need trams on the scale of the likes of Prague or Vienna, as it has what I think is one of the best mass transit systems anywhere in the world, in the form of the London Underground, as well as a very extensive network of overground and commuter trains. That said though, the present day Croydon Trams began operations in 2000, ending a nearly 67-year hiatus of tram operations in Croydon, and a nearly 48-year gap in the capital overall. The reason I'm so reluctant to call them London Trams is because they don't actually go into central London. The closest that they really get is Wimbledon, whose train and tube services fall into fare zone 3, i.e. definitely not central London. If you're wondering, the trams aren't incorporated into the normal fare zones. Its pricing and ticketing is more interconnected with the buses than the tube, but were the network to be incorporated, it would almost certainly run between zones 3 and 5. To connect onto the trams from a train at East Croydon, it's best to head towards the southern or Brittain end of the platforms, as the tram stop is located on an overpass down here. If you're wondering how to pay for your trip on the trams, well, your options are somewhat limited. The tram network is now almost completely cashless, so you'll have to touch in and out on one of the yellow readers, using either a contactless bank card, your phone if you have the likes of Apple or Google Pay, or an Oyster card. If you do want to pay for your trip using cash, then the latter is probably the best option, as you can obviously top up your Oyster card using cash. The only paper tickets that you can use are travel cards that include zones 3 to 6. The one-way tram fare is currently a flat £1.75, regardless of whether you're going one stop or travelling the entire length of the line, with the bus and tram daily cap currently being set at £5.25, so you'll never pay for more than the equivalent of 3 tram or bus trips on any given day. Now, given that I have a train to catch out of Marylebone in a couple of hours, it's probably best I head towards central London, so we'll take the tram from here to Wimbledon, so that way I can just hop on the district line to catch my train later. Our route to Wimbledon will see us heading closer to central London, travelling via Mitcham Junction and Morden Road. Service is very frequent, with trams running between East Croydon and Wimbledon every 5 minutes. In addition to services to Wimbledon, East Croydon also sees tram services heading towards Elmer's End, Beckenham Junction and West Croydon. The majority of London's trams fleet consists of the CR 4000 units built by Bombardier. These are the original trams that have been operating on the network since it opened. More recently, 12 Croydon Variobarn units built by Stadler have been introduced since 2012. In either case, both types of tram operate at speeds of up to 50 miles an hour or 80 kilometers an hour. These CR 4000 units are able to accommodate up to 70 seated and 138 standing passengers, for a total capacity of 208 people. Now, I know it's hard to see with all the people and whatnot, but these trams do feature level boarding. Now, as you can see, it's quite busy on here at the moment, but it'll soon clear out and we'll take a look at the seats then. But for now, we've set off on our 29-minute journey to Wimbledon. seats are actually quite roomy, for a tram that is anyway, and I think that they're more than comfortable enough for the short journeys that these units operate. Anyway, the first portion of the trip sees us running along the streets of Croydon. The track setup on London's trams is pretty mixed. There's a fair amount of dedicated track that runs separately from the road, but there's also plenty of places like this where we find ourselves running alongside motorists and other road users. Just off in the distance now we can see Croydon Minster. The structure dates back at least 1,000 years and is located in the London Borough's Old Town area. Those two massive chimneys that you can see as we approach Ampere Way are actually part of an IKEA. Now obviously IKEA didn't just decide to whack two great big chimneys next to their store for no reason, but rather they are all that's now left of Croydon B Power Station, which closed in the 1980s. After leaving Therapia Lane, we pass the Tramlink depot, which is where the trams are all cleaned and maintained. The depot is also home of the network system control, as well as being used as a base by the British Transport Police. We soon thereafter arrive at Mitcham Junction, which is also served by the adjacent railway station of the same name. Morden Road is the first stop we call at where you could feasibly change for the Underground, with South Wimbledon Station on the Northern Line being located around a 10-minute walk away. After leaving Dundonald Road, it's not long until we find ourselves running alongside mainline railway tracks as we approach Wimbledon. Personally, I think that these trams are great. They serve an area of London that is otherwise sparsely covered by the tube, and coupled with their close ties to London's bus network, they make for a pleasant and fuss-free experience. However, that is just my opinion, so I am, as always, very keen to hear your thoughts on Croydon Trams in the comments below. Just one thing as we head to alight at Wimbledon. In the front and rear coaches by the entry doors, you'll find these dedicated wheelchair spaces. Right, with that I'm off to go and take the tube across to Marylebone for what would be a decisively less pleasant and fuss-free journey up to Birmingham. However, that is very much a story for another day. Next week though, we'll be heading abroad once more to take a look at what could possibly be Europe's greatest railway journey, the Bernina Express, from Chur in Switzerland to Tirano in Italy. If you're not already, then be sure to subscribe and enable notifications, as I promise you, you're not going to want to miss that one. Also, if you enjoyed this short but sweet video, then be sure to give it a like and comment. If you didn't, then please do let us know what we can do to improve in the future. A special thanks as always goes to my amazing patrons and channel members for their generous and ongoing support. But with that, all that's left for me to say is thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you all next Friday.